Good evening, guys. Hope you're all well. And yes, this is going to be a very interesting couple of hours as we're going to dig into something new that we haven't talked about before. But obviously, as you guys know, we're very committed towards helping you, make the money that you are entitled to as an artist, and also be able to pursue revenue streams that you've got control of, and effectively have a sovereignty over your career, ownership over your music. You understand exactly what you're entitled to. And with the way that the world's been going in the last few years, and especially in the last year or so, it's now more important than ever. So with that being said, you may not know this about me, I'm not too public about it, but I've been a big fan of cryptocurrencies for a long time, and got my own kind of holdings in various cryptos, and I'm a big believer in its capability to change the world. So without sort of much further ado, I'm going to introduce you to somebody who shares that opinion and is, like us, doing something about it. So I'm just going to move the camera over here, and I'm going to introduce you to Bjorn from ROCKI. How are you, sir?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Very, very excited to be here.
Well, we're very excited to have you, and it's an amazing thing that, again, we were just saying before we came on air, like how small the world is, right? And how we're already running in kind of the same circles, but we only kind of met a few weeks ago. And it was actually one of our AAA members who connected us, which was Clyde Rouge, Kyle. Yeah. And obviously we've had a couple of calls, and we've really kind of figured out that we're on the same page on a lot of things, right?
Yeah, no, Clyde is a great artist, a great person. He's been actually with me with my previous company, Tune. He was a big artist on there, and was a big supporter for just the general idea of having a decentralized music platform that has an alternative payment method with cryptocurrencies and blockchain for royalty accounting, etc. So now he's using ROCKI, and we're just getting started there. So yeah, it was great to be connected from him.
No, exactly. And I think it's, as I said just in the introduction there, it's really important to talk about these kind of alternative revenue models and the future, really, because it's all very well and good me saying that it is an alternative when it's actually the future in a lot of different ways. And it's kind of, I think it may initially be quite confusing for a lot of people because the technology itself is kind of still a little bit new. It's still developing, and as we said on a call a couple of weeks ago, I think me, like the likes of me and you who are a bit more in tune with the blockchain world, like we can start talking about mining and proof of stake and proof of work and all this stuff, and it just goes over the head of like 99% of people.
Even for me at times, I gotta say, I'm actually not a super big blockchain expert. I'm more in the belief of building a platform. Yes, we use blockchain technology, but it's more under the hood. It what basically fuels the platform, but it's more transactions happening under the hood. They're not really there if you're looking for them. So the goal with ROCKI is to build this mainstream music application that's no more difficult to use than uploading your music on SoundCloud, as an example. And I think that's kind of, a lot of people are, put off by blockchain and crypto, and, you can read positive things about it, negative things about it. But, the goal is, of course, to make it as mainstream friendly as possible. So any artist out there with zero crypto or blockchain understanding can sign up, create an account, upload music, get rewarded in our token system, and eventually cash that out into euros or dollars in a fairly simple way, without having to go to these more complex crypto exchanges and saving your private keys and this and that. Making it super user friendly is one of our biggest priorities.
No, totally. And again, because where we're going to start is with how the current model of the music industry, and especially in the dance music industry, is putting it politely, like broken. and what we can do to potentially change that, or what has to change, and then we can get into kind of ROCKI's role with it. So let's kind of start there, because again, before we sort of get into this, we're not slating anyone, we're not criticizing anyone, we've built this model up around ourselves over the last 20 or 30 years as it is, and a lot of what we do today, even in the digital world, is almost kind of quite outmoded, quite kind of archaic principles and practices and ways of working together that we're kind of a bit old-fashioned even in the days of vinyl, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, let me just say two things about myself first, which I forgot. So
my apologies. I should have. Yeah. I should. We just rolled straight into it, but this is what we do, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting stuff. I get super excited, but I always forget to introduce myself. But my name is Bjorn Niclas. I come from almost 20 years background in the music industry. Spanning back from being an amateur DJ and producer myself to running club nights in San Francisco at a club there called Ruby Sky. I was involved with a company called Spunday. We did some really great parties there. We had a record label, Spunday Recordings, and then I fell into tour managing, and then ended up working managing with the management of a pretty famous trance DJ from England and producer Gareth Emery, and I had the privilege of working with him for many years, touring the world, assisting him with his record releases, etc. So I've been kind of exposed to all the different aspects of the music industry, and sadly, it's a pretty fucked up industry. It's not very positive, and it's a lot of negative forces going around where everybody's trying to push each other down so you don't arrive to their level, so they can maybe earn less revenue. It seems to me that artists that are on the D level, they want to get to the C level, but the guys who are on the C level, they don't necessarily want you to get up to that level, because then you might have less gigs. And then it's the same for the guy who's at the B level. He doesn't want the people on the C level coming to his level, because then maybe he will have less gig and less income, and who has the top billing on the flyer. There's all this negative, crazy shit going on. So it's not a very positive industry. It's very cutthroat, and a lot of shady stuff going on. And of course also on the royalty side, and if we take a step back and look at the music industry as a whole, the music industry was created in the days of sheet music and jukeboxes, and back then it was specifically designed to really trick artists, trick jazz musicians back then. And they created this system with, here's a small advance, $5,000, $50,000 cash up front, just sign the bottom line on this 400-page contract, and we will be responsible for collecting revenue from all the different sources and paying you. But obviously that didn't really work very, in a fair or transparent ways. And sadly, those practices are still employed today, with this music industry being extremely complex. I don't even really fully understand how it works, whether all the money is trickling down to publishers and PRSs and ASCAPs and all these royalty rights associations over the world. It's a very complex industry, and there's very little transparency, and there's a lot of mystery. I always say, where there is mystery, there is a way to profit, and it seems like there is a lot of mystery that creates profits for a lot of big powers. So, over the years working with Gareth, we kind of really saw how the revenue model and income really changed from an artist. We used to make decent money selling CD albums, and then the next thing that came there was the MP3s, and the iTunes MP3 store, for a while there, 99-cent downloads, it still had a 70% profit margin. So it was actually pretty good, and you can make some good money there. Then, of course, Napster came along and completely wiped that out. And the next thing that came then is, of course, streaming, and Spotify leading the charge there. But sadly, they have kind of always been in the grip of the major record labels, who kind of, they were operating for quite some time without having the proper licenses and agreements in place. And when they were, I guess, too big to fail, the record labels came in and muscle their way into taking ownership of the company, and for sure they have more favorable payout deals than you and me, for example. And then of course the way that the Spotify payment model works is simply, they take all the money that they make in any given day. So all the money from subscriptions, I think they had now 155 million paying subscribers, and of course the revenue that goes into a big pool, and whoever has the most amounts of streams gets the most amount of revenue. So that pro rata model works really great for that 1%. So when you're a Beyonce, you're Taylor Swift, you're Ed Sheeran, you have tens of millions of fans, you have tens of millions of fans on Twitter, you send them traffic, you get the biggest piece of that pie. That doesn't necessarily work very great for the smaller guys, and a lot of them being independent. And there's been a lot of articles about it, but pretty much something like 1% of the artists on Spotify accounts for 90% of the revenue, which typically means that 99%, the remainder, get to share 10%, which typically comes out about 200 US a year or around there. So clearly not something to base your musical career on. Clearly not something that you can use to support your music career with buying instruments or music production programs or whatnot. So a lot of artists, or most artists, made most of their money touring, playing gigs. And sadly now with the pandemic has completely crushed that. There's really no income at all from playing live gigs, live events. And some people that I talk to here in the States at Live Nation, they don't even start to look at things until 2022. So are we going to have an entire more fucking year of making no money? It's just really terrible. But on the flip side there, it really only showed that the need for having better alternatives online. And there's been some great new options like, live streaming behind a payment gate wall. So at least you can make some revenue performing a little show with your band in your garage in front of an audience, receiving some sort of online ticketing revenue from that. We saw Bandcamp has really exploded in direct-to-consumer selling of music, MP3s and merch, etc. So, ROCKI was kind of born, to kind of tackle those problems and rather to try to tackle on and build a solution to fix the broken music industry, which many companies have tried. Instead, we just look at it that we'll just draw a line in the sand and build something from the ground up using blockchain technology to improve royalty accounting and transparency mechanism, which is, of course, on the speculative side. But there are some great advantages with having a token payment tied into a consumer platform with mainstream adoption as there's more and more users that are coming on that are using it. When it comes to crypto, for those of you who don't really know too much about it, but Bitcoin is of course the most valuable one, and one of the reasons why is because it simply has the most people holding Bitcoin, using Bitcoin. Ethereum is the second, and then so on and so forth. So there's actually a great correlation between the amount of users holding your crypto and the value of the crypto. So by having a platform that can scale easily with onboarding artists that are basically joining the ecosystem of this ROCKS token that we have, the entire utility of the token goes up, and so should the token value. So there's a few advantages to basically base it on blockchain technology versus the traditional system, and we can go more deeper into it. But basically, it was born because of the current broken model, right? I'm sure many artists that are listening to this, I'm sure you are well aware of how much are you earning from Spotify and how long does it take to pay, and are you 100% sure that the 200 pages of data or numbers that you get from them is the true, real revenue that you're supposed to get? Right? It's not like you're going to pay a forensic accountant $10,000 to do a forensic review of your accounting in order to recoup maybe a few missing $100. So they know that, and you really have no power. You get what you get, and that's the system that's built. It's built to cater to those major forces that control the music industry. So that's kind of some of the ideas and background why ROCKI was born, which is basically essentially because of the need, the current need.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. By the way, I am one of those people that if you go to a party with me, I'm awful. I don't introduce anyone to anyone. So that's why I just completely skipped over the intros with you at the beginning, because I kind of just assumed everybody knew who you were.
I'm not famous in any way, but I do have a great background. I've worked in a couple of music tech startups. I had a great live streaming company called Groovio about 6 years ago, which was basically a live streaming platform and app and hardware we built where the DJ could connect their mixer, straight into the app, get high quality audio and video, live stream for an audience, and receive donations. It's sadly
wild to think you were doing that 6 years ago.
6 years ago, and that company was doing really great. Groovio was called, but 6 months post our launch, we were dependent on bringing the fans from Facebook into the app to enjoy the live streaming experience. Sadly, 6 months post our launch, Facebook Live came out, which completely crushed the company. It made it very difficult for us to try to grab eyeballs from Facebook into a new app, because Facebook Live was everywhere. It was free. It was easy to use. All the Facebook fans that you had accumulated, they got instant notifications. So it just kind of shows you, timing is very important for launching companies and services. And right now, if we look at the timing for struggling musicians not earning money from Spotify or Apple Music, coupled with the loss of income from live gigs, I think something like this is even more important now than ever. Something needs to change, because otherwise music is going to disappear. You're not going to be able to work on music in your home studio because maybe you have to take a second job delivering pizza to get to pay the bills. So it's, to me, it's really heartbreaking to kind of see where the industry has been heading, and just how unfair those current streaming options are. How smaller independent guys are so heavily disfavored compared to all the others. And it actually took a company from France, Deezer, I think one of the bigger, maybe the third or fourth biggest streaming company. They actually implemented that, the user-centric payment system, which means if Paul is paying 15 euros a month to Deezer, and he only listens to Bjorn, he only listens to my songs on Deezer, from that 15, I get 10. I get the majority. And that's really the most fair way of doing it, because it makes it easier for an artist to go out and say, hey, sign up to Deezer, subscribe, and pay the 15 euros, because I actually get the majority of that revenue. I don't think you have ever seen an artist go out and tell their fans to go up and sign up to Spotify Premium. Pay Spotify $15 a month so I can receive 1 cent. It doesn't make any sense, because the money doesn't go to them. It goes to Taylor Swift, it goes to Ed Sheeran, it goes to all those huge artists with tens of millions of fans. So we have also incorporated that user-centric payment model on ROCKI, just to have an alternative revenue stream besides the crypto aspect part, which we can jump into a little bit later on. But yeah, that's kind of the state of the music industry as I see it, and what we're planning to build in order to change it.
And it's also the revenue that you have to spend as a label as well. Like, I've just come off running a label, co-founding a label for 5 or so years, and there's no money in it for the artist. There's certainly no money in it for the label, and you are doing it as a labor of love. So by the time you get through a distributor to get it onto the likes of Beatport, TrackSource, Juno, etc., and then when you kind of get the royalty statements through and everything else, it's like it's there's very, very little left, even between the label and the artist. And even then, in order to promote the thing in the first place, you're spending probably more money than the label will make on a release to send that music to very well-known, very successful DJs who ironically could probably afford to buy it on the store for free.
Of course, yeah.
And for me, it's like there's been so many different parts of the industry that just, when you add it all up and you take a step back, like nobody in their right mind would run an industry this way. Because it's just completely unsustainable. And this is what the last year, the pandemic, has really, really proven. And, you know, don't get me wrong, it's very, very tough. But in a way, I'm kind of grateful for what's happened, because it's really put the spotlight on all of this, and it's been badly needed and badly overdue for a long time. So, you know, it's great that we're having this conversation now, because I think people have been forced into a position to become more aware of it. Like you mentioned Bandcamp before, and, you know, other services that are out there that can be used to create more direct connections between an artist and their fan base, and find it easier to build their fan base as well, which, you know, what again, like you mentioned before, what ROCKI is going to partly do, as well as this kind of tokenized kind of thing. So it's really, really exciting, and I love meeting people like you, because you're kind of like, you're somebody who lives like 5 years in the future, basically.
Yeah, well, you know, that can be good and bad. Sometimes I seem to be a little bit too heady in the future, and even with, you know, my previous company, Tune, that I was involved with there, it was a great idea. It was just the wrong time. We launched at the wrong time. We launched right in the middle of the 2018 crypto market crash. We hadn't built in any type of safe mechanism to continue providing value by having a regular, you know, subscription in fiat that could supplement a failing token value, etc. And you know, and of course, we've seen, you know, pandemic came, and, you know, if you look at crypto now in general, crypto is absolutely blowing up, and you know, we can, you know, there's a lot of reasons why, but, you know, governments are printing trillions of dollars out of thin air to inject into failing economies, and now in America we have a new government in place, a new administration, and they are very, very much looking at injecting even more money into the economies to help out people who have been, you know, suffering from the pandemic and failing businesses, etc. But that money doesn't come from anywhere; it just comes from thin air, and it's unlimited. So when that happened, that tends to have a really good impact on crypto as an alternative, because you can't just keep printing money forever out of thin air before the value gets deflated and inflation happens.
Well, exactly. And you get to that situation where, for you history buffs out there was a period in Germany just after the First World War where it was actually cheaper to wallpaper your house with the currency than actually buy wallpaper. That is the kind of extreme, what they would call hyperinflation kind of situation. And that even happened recently in countries like Zimbabwe, for example, where they were doing ridiculous things like, you know, printing, I don't know what the currency's called, but it was like they did like a 5 million note and stuff like that, because like the inflation just ran completely out of control. And obviously I'm not saying we're going to be at that point yet, but it's like, it shows that countries can and governments can devalue their own currencies at will, which means that, you know, the money that you carry around in your pocket every day or is sat in your bank account is potentially worth less every day. So there has to be an off ramp for this. There has to be an alternative, and especially with the way the music industry finds itself at the moment, then obviously the process and the focus then moves on to these projects like ROCKI and like others that are, you know, going to potentially arise out of this situation and fulfill different sorts of use cases, if you will. So yeah, what I thought we could get into now is, let's think about, you know, if someone's listening to this or watching this and like has literally no idea, like literally fresh off the boat, no idea what a blockchain actually is. Like, could we like define that in like very, very simple terms, and then we can kind of plug the blockchain into ROCKI and then talk about how that's going to change things?
Yeah, sure. And, you know, as I said, I'm not a blockchain engineer or expert, but I always try to explain it in a very, very simple way. You know, blockchain is essentially a big ledger. So let's just pretend it's a big notebook. And in this notebook, transaction gets recorded. So let's say today Bjorn, I'm going to send Paul 20 Bitcoins.
I wish. I mean, you can if you want.
I'll think about it. So there's a recorded in the blockchain. Bjorn is sending Paul 20 Bitcoins, right? Now, what's cool about that is there's millions of copies of that transaction that happened. So it's not just one ledger that I have one book and I can lose it. It's gone forever. So what do you mean? I never sent you 20 Bitcoin, or you can say I never received it. You said you sent it, but I didn't get it. So this Bitcoin distributed network basically has millions of these transactions being recorded on everyone's computer who is mining these transactions. So there's basically this ledger is held by multiple millions and millions and millions and millions computers. So when something gets recorded on that blockchain, there is millions of transactions recorded that are basically just duplicating that transaction. So it's basically impossible to change it because everybody has a copy of that transaction that has happened. So it's really great for this type of micro transactions that keeps track. Paul owes Bjorn this, Bjorn did this, etc., etc. And of course, Bitcoin is the biggest. It's also built many years ago, 2000 over 10 years ago. So it's not the quickest, but it's by far the biggest. It also takes an enormous amount of energy to upkeep all the computers that are keeping track of all these micro transactions happening back and forth to make it cheat and foolproof. But essentially, it's just a big distributed ledger that keeps track on all of these micro transactions that gets moved. You don't actually really own and have a Bitcoin. All you have is a transaction that basically says that you're entitled to this particular piece of Bitcoin, and that's recorded with everyone that has that is keeping up this Bitcoin network. So obviously for royalty accounting, it makes sense because we are recording it on the blockchain. We can never basically change it and say, today Paul is getting 50%, but you know what? Next week, let's just pay him 10, right? You can't edit them, so they're foolproof. You can't, once they get up, and we use something called smart record contract, which is basically a form of digital contract where if you and me, Paul, we make a track together, we're 50-50. When we upload that on ROCKI, we fill out this smart record contract. So 50% to Paul, 50% to Bjorn. And then when the track is being streamed and revenue is being created, it automatically pays us in our wallets there in real time. And you can see that I got my payment. I can say that you got your payment. Other users on the platform can also see that, oh, that track Heaven that Bjorn and Paul did, they're 50-50, and they can see that they earn revenue accordingly. So it's a fully transparent system that I think works really great for royalty accounting in particular.
That is about one of the best explanations of blockchain I think I've heard. Yeah, because it's great because you've said, oh yeah, well I'm not a blockchain engineer, and my whole thing is thank God, because you ask a blockchain engineer, we're going to be still here in half an hour, And it's we need this thing of we need to be able to take, we were talking when we first met, we need to be able to take all the fear out of it, all the jargon, and basically do what I do here at NYT, which is just demystify a synthesizer and make it really simple for everyone to be able to understand, and take the big scary words and kind of break them down into easy to understand chunks. That's what we've got to do with blockchain technology, because I think a lot of people get so scared that they don't go in and they don't do the research, they don't invest in one way, and in another way they kind of miss the boat, or they miss out on opportunities because of that fear.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's great. It's great that you've got that, this really kind of simple way of explaining it. And I think the other thing to really point out as well is that there's an irony to this situation. You were talking about governments being able to print trillions upon trillions of dollars out of thin air. So what you're talking about there is an asset that isn't scarce. Like, it's just completely infinite. Whereas you talk about the reason why, more than anything, Bitcoin is so fascinating is because it's scarce. It's literally the first ever digitally scarce product, which means there's only, the way that the system has been invented is that there's only 21 million of them in existence ever. And even then, you know, some of them have been lost, some of them have been held back by the people who created it. So there's probably only ever going to be about 16 million in active circulation at any one time. You can correct my figures if you want, but
I mean, I think something like half is lost because people forgot their passwords. So that just brings it down to half, and you know, as you say, you know, miners are being rewarded, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, you know, scarcity is of course one of the reasons that a crypto becomes valuable. And with the old platform Tune that I was involved in, we actually had a completely wrong token economy. We paid out way too many tokens to for the streams, which basically had a counter effect of having scarcity. It was an inflationary model that would always give out more excess than what there was demand on the buying side, right? So, you know, you have artists earning value for their streams and activity on the platform, and then on the crypto side, on the speculative side, that's where, you know, people believe in your product, they buy the tokens, they trade the tokens. That's where you have to create the demand. But if there's always a super excess of tokens being circulated and giving out like candy, then there's not going to be that demand to drive up price. So with ROCKI, that's completely being redesigned, that whole tokenomic system, and how we create more of a scarcity model. And we also have a bunch of features that rewards you for keeping the ROCK's cryptocurrency token within the platform that you can use for various, you know, tools and services that we have that can help you advance your career as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. It really is. The whole thing with ROCKI, that it's going to obviously use blockchain technology, so in a way the reporting is completely accurate, and to a very, very high degree it's completely automated, which means it's going to be a much more efficient way of working for both yourselves as a company but also for artists, which should hopefully mean you're going to get paid in a way that actually the value will increase over time. Because again, one of the things that cryptocurrencies are, and Bitcoin in particular, is known for is being, rather than inflationary, being deflationary, where it obviously its value is increasing over time, and therefore, you know, its demand is always going up. And then being able to, like you say, reward people on the platform for certain behaviors, I think is really, really exciting. So this is going to be like a streaming service, right? So it's kind of like it's not really like a Beatport model where you download stuff. It's more of like a streaming service, right?
Yeah. So in this first versions, the core functionality is basically just a pure music streaming platform with no downloads, right? So you upload your music, people can add it to the playlist, they can stream it, but at the moment there's no downloads. That will be a feature that we can implement fairly simple, where artist Paul can say, hey, this new track of mine, you can stream it, and of course if somebody wants to buy it, it's going to be 2 ROCKS tokens, for example, and they could download the music file. As you know, less and less people sadly download music, at these times, except of course, DJs that, need them to play at gigs, etc. But yeah, there's definitely going to be a download option as well in the future. Sadly, Spotify and the others, they have really trained that behavior that, this is all you can eat buffet of music available at your fingertips 24/7. They made that app, and it's a great app. They have done a fantastic job, the Spotify app, in terms of finding new music. Their AI algorithm recommending music that is similar to what you like. They have done a really good job with that. they don't pay artists, but all the other stuff they really nailed to make it very easy. But sadly, that's kind of the behavior that people are accustomed to now. Is just, you know, you create your playlist, you press play, you go on about your day. You don't really give any value back to the artist. Press play, you go to the gym or you sit in the car, that's it. So we spend a lot of time thinking about that. Like, how do you actually, you know, go above and beyond to try to extract some value back from the fans, from the listeners, and how could they help you in your artist career by doing certain things on a platform that will help you as an artist? And we talked about this the other day, Paul, but you know, one of the features that we're building is this feature called Get Paid to Listen, which basically is a simple way for fans and music lovers to actually get paid some small token rewards for listening to sponsored and curated music. And those token payments actually comes from you, the artist, Paul. So the idea that how it works is if you have earned some tokens from your streams, and now you have, let's say, 100 ROCKS tokens, right? You could reinvest, let's just say whatever amount you want, 50%. So you can put 50 tokens back into circulation in this sponsored and curated list function where, let's say, fans that like techno, for example, let's say you made a techno track, you can put a token reward to give out, let's just say 1 token to make it easy. So for every new users that hear your track for one time gets 1 token from your allocation. But in order to receive that 1 token, they have to give you some value back. You're not just going to shell out tokens for nothing, because you as an artist, you would like a value in return. And what could that value be? And you know, we're still ironing it out, but some of those things could be a share on social media. So you have a techno lover that never heard about you, they get exposed to your track because they get paid a token. Now they become a fan. So you have now 1 more fan that you had before. Sharing on social media, if the guy's a big techno lover, he might have 10 techno friends on his Twitter or Facebook that now also gets to discover Paul's techno track. So you might pick up a couple of more fans that way that have never heard about you before, and now they also becomes fans. Or it could be something like sharing their user email on the platform that you can use to create your own email list, which I think in today's world is really important for artists to start building up their own email list, because it's a very ineffective, I mean, it's a very inexpensive and effective marketing tool. And you know, when you think about that, if we take a step back, you know, all of you guys, all of you artists out there, you spent your time, money, and effort to build up Facebook, with bringing your fans there to become fans of you on Facebook. But now today, if you want to reach them, you have to pay Facebook. It's not like, oh, you brought Facebook 100,000 fans of you. Paul, you have 100,000 fans, for example. If you make a post of your new song on your artist profile, you know, maybe only 5% gets to see it. If you want the remaining 95% to see it, you have to pay. You have to pay to expand your reach for the fans that you brought them in the first place. So it's a really shitty move that they made. So I think the importance of having and curating your own email list is very valuable in today's world, because it's a great way to inform about, you know, tour updates and merchandise, special tracks or new tracks, new music videos. It's, you know, all of those services, MailChimp and whatnot, they're all super inexpensive to use. And I think people are really kind of enjoying getting these personalized email updates rather than just this traditional, oh, here's my new track on a Facebook feed and seeing how that goes. So that's one of the other things that can be a value of you. So why are you paying out tokens to fans? It's because you get something back. You get something back that's valuable for you and your artist career. And we simply look at it as a sort of as an artist amplification tool. So you come to ROCKI, you use our services and feature, you earn tokens. You can reinvest some of those tokens back into the system. You get exposed to more fans. You get exposed to most, feedback. Maybe maybe you want to have feedback on your track. How good is the track from 1 to 10? Or getting their email. There's always some sort of value that you get back as an artist that can help your artist career in the future. So pretty excited about building tools like that not only help the artist, but it actually makes it fun for the fans to be a part of the whole ecosystem as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's just so much exciting stuff to kind of unpack from what you've just explained there, because, like, as you said before, going to like the Facebooks and the social media platforms of this world, like that we've been trained to, interact with content and with each other in certain ways that suit them. Whereas what we're positing here, and we speak about this a lot in NYT about, again, building your audience, but doing it by having an email list and having a communication channel that's direct to the fans. And you were saying before about organic reach on Facebook without payments, like it's like 1% now, less than probably now. Whereas we use email a lot in our marketing, and like we can send an email out and sometimes we can get 40, 50, 60% open rates and like 50-60% click-through rates from an email. And it's like it's incredible, because like we have like multiples more people who are on our email list because we give value through that email list, because we send out like motivational articles. We don't just ask them for money all the time. We're giving away free racks. We're adding value. And I think this is a big thing, because now I think people are becoming much more aware of what we would call the attention economy, where attention, I mean, some people have probably heard this before, but some people have said in the recent past that attention is like the new oil, and it needs to be commodified, or the value of it has to be represented. And I think what ROCKI is trying to do here with rewarding listeners, and then obviously having that means of exchange and giving artists tools to amplify themselves and also build an audience, I think is very, very special. And it's very reminiscent of, like we spoke about this previously, about these types of things are starting to spout up or grow up all the time. Like, for example, a Brave browser, which is probably a really good example of that, where you are literally rewarded in a token for looking at images, getting little notifications of ads and little other things that happen as you are just using the internet normally. So it's going to be interesting to see how people catch on with this in the next few years, and how incentivizing people to behave in a certain way, interact in a certain way, and do what they would normally do anyway. Because again, like you make the analogy of like the guy might listen to the track and get the token and absolutely love it, and he would have shared it anyway,
Yeah, to your point there, I really see it as kind of where the industry has to move to. Facebook and YouTube and Google, they are rich because we gave them our time for free, right? We built them up with our time. And my niece is 14, 13 on YouTube all day watching makeup videos. She's making a YouTube influencer rich by giving her time that many hours a day for some influencer to make a cut. And YouTube, of course, makes the most money. And of course, we use Snapchat, we use Twitter, we use Instagram and this and that. But we are the product. Our time is the product that they make money on. So I was really inspired by Brave, like you said before. That, there's a company that actually they cut away all the ads from the Google network. There's no tracking. They block all the tracking. And as they say, if you want, voluntarily, you don't have to, but you can choose to look at their ads and pop-ups, etc. And if you do, you're actually rewarded in their token for giving your time to them. And I think that's actually some of where that idea came from. That we need to have some options where, the fans that are consuming, they're not just the product to make money off. They actually get something in return. And I think with music, everybody loves music. And if you can build some fun, meaningful features that makes it fun to participate in, I mean, who wouldn't want to get closer to the artist by providing feedback or direct messages or getting on that exclusive email list where I can receive, free updates or, free tickets or giveaways, etc. So we're super excited about that, and I think that's kind of where the industry needs to head in general. I've seen people working on social media networks that are going to reward users for content they put up, pictures, etc. So I think that's kind of where the future, is heading towards. So I think we're one of the first or the only music company doing that, and that's going to be a big one, I think.
No, totally. And again, returning to that topic of like digital scarcity as well, this is where, again, we'll head into possibly some technical sort of terms and stuff, but there's also a role for something called NFTs, right? Non-fungible tokens. This is something that one of our members, Magnus, was asking about. Are NFTs going to be a part of ROCKI going forward, and how is that going to be implemented? And maybe we start by actually defining what a non-fungible token is in the first place.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so non-fungible tokens, NFT, has been around for quite some time, and if I try to dumb it down in a way, I just call it a digital piece of ownership, right? So you go buy a car at the dealership. He gives you a pink slip. He gives you a paper that says you are the owner of this car. You are the owner, and here's the proof. Look, I have the purchase contract or the pink slip. You own the car. So, in an easy way, an NFT is this digital piece of ownership that gets stored on the blockchain. Again, it's uncheatable. It's only tied to you, but it's also a tradable commodity that you can sell to other people. And it's been really, really big in the crypto art community, where graphic artists are making digital art and selling the ownership of that art as an NFT. So the NFT becomes, the ownership contract shows, look, Paul has this incredible, cool graphic, and he bought the NFT for 1 Ethereum. The ownership there is recorded on the blockchain. Now you own it. And then, 6 months later, you can sell it to someone else that buys that digital ownership of that digital art from you. And now there's even artists that are doing digital art coupled with loops and songs and snippets, 30-second, 20-second loops, and make it motion graphic and some very cool stuff. And that industry is absolutely humongous. It's a mega multi-dollar business with super very, very talented artists who are releasing crypto art on a regular basis, selling the NFTs. There's a couple of big market spaces. So, imagine the eBay for crypto art, where regular people can go in and say, oh, wow, look at this really cool graphic from Paul. It's only 1 Ethereum to buy the ownership, and they buy that NFT ownership. But, what I realized when looking at this, and, I'm a fan of the industry, but I realized, it doesn't necessarily work for music, because when I look at it, if let's say we have 4 or 5 million independent artists in the world, I think very, very, very few of them are also graphic artists that can make graphic art, or they can make animated videos together with their music. Most of them are just musicians. So we wanted to do NFTs, but we kind of took a step back and really kind of thought about how could NFTs work for music and where does it make sense. And we're basically launching with 2 NFT offerings on ROCKI. And to kind of make this sounding simple, the first one we basically call a royalty owner NFT. So if Paul is uploading a song, he can decide to sell, let's say, 50% of future royalty earnings of that song as an NFT. So 50% of royalty ownership becomes this digital ownership contract, the NFT. Then fans can bid on that, or you can set a fixed price and say, hey, I want $100 to give away 50% royalty rights. So fans can pick that up and buy it, invest in it, and now they basically become a stakeholder of the song. And what's cool about that is, and we did a couple of ones last year. We did a big one with Guy J, where he auctioned off 50% of royalty rights for his track Cotton Eyes, which is exclusive on ROCKI. And we put that up on an auction protocol website called bounce.finance. And it sold for 40 Ethereum, which back then was like 24,000. But, 40 Ethereum today is almost triple. But the cool thing about that is I think that rather than selling 50% to one person, you're better off selling 1% to 50 people. Because then you basically have 50 investors or 50 stakeholders in your song that are financially vested in the success of the song. So what we have seen is that fan behavior change from being this passive listener who put on their headset, they put on their playlist on Spotify, they press play, they go on about their day. That's it. But now, if you have 50 stakeholders, they are much more inclined to share the music on social media, to promote it, to help on marketing and activities. And we can grow it and grow the business even more with contacts, with know-how, promotions, etc. So when we can get fans that become stakeholders of the royalty incomes of the song, some really cool things happen. So we're really excited about that one. So royalty income right is the first NFT, so fans can buy pieces of royalty rights of a song. And the second one is we basically just call it listening NFT, and I can share you some links. We made a Medium article just about how these NFTs work and how they can be beneficial. But simply the listening NFT kind of works in a very simple way. Just imagine Paul uploads a song, and you will only allow 100 fans to be able to listen to it. So they basically get locked behind a listening NFT, and you put a price on what the key that would unlock it will cost. So let's say it's just $10, right? So $10 times 100, that's upfront revenue that you get directly, and then those lucky 100 fans that hold that NFT key, or just simply the digital access key, are able to stream that song, are able to insert that into their playlist. Nobody else have access to that song but those 100 lucky NFT owners. Now that also becomes a tradable commodity because it's essentially just a digital right. You have a digital right to hear this song. So if anyone is like me, when I get a new track that I love, I will play the crap out of it for 2-3 months. And then it just kind of disappear far down in my library, and I kind of forget about it. So fans can then basically sell that NFT with someone else on the platform, on this secondary marketplace that we're building, where similar to the crypto art exchanges, where you can see thousands of different crypto art creators who are offering their content creations for sale. The same thing here. It will be a secondary market where fans can sell and buy these listening NFTs, because maybe you really wanted to buy the listening NFT of Bjorn Niclas' new song Heaven, but you didn't make the cut, or they sold out too quickly and nobody wants to sell it. But 3 months later, somebody is selling it, and hopefully they're selling it for a small profit of what they paid for it originally. So those are the kind of the first two NFT offerings that we are working on, which I think makes a lot of sense for music. And you don't have to be, a digital graphic artist to make, art associated together with the music. It's just simply music. You do what you do best, and that's producing music. So this can be a great new way for artists to receive new upfront revenue, whether that's selling 20% of future royalties and you're getting $200 from doing that. Getting $200 on the spot, you'll have to still have a lot of streams on Spotify to get $200, and it's going to take you a pretty long time to even collect it. So some, great new ways for artists to earn new upfront revenue, and new kind of fun ways for fans to get involved in the music, either as shareholders of the royalty, if you say, or just bringing back that nostalgia of owning something collectible, scarcity. You know what? That new song from Paul, there was only 10 copies on the NFT. I got one. You don't have it. Only you can enjoy it. So when your mates come over for a party, you can play it. And like, what is this record? Can I, where do I get it? You can't.
Yeah, exactly.
There's only 10 copies. There's only 10 listening rights. So there's of course more things you can do with the NFTs, and you can own the entire song as an NFT setup. But we can look at adding those later.
Yeah.
The importance now for me was create easy ones that can bring new upfront revenue, because most of my artist friends are really struggling now with no income from gigs, etc. And this is kind of proven to be that. And right now we're launching our public version of the platform where new artists can sign up. And I think, Paul, you might have a referral code later on that you can share with your community.
Indeed.
So they can bypass the line. And the next things we're turning on are basically the token payment system. So every day, if you have streams, you get your daily statement that shows how many streams you had, how many tokens you earned, etc. And then after that, we're rolling out this NFT marketplace and the NFT offering, which I'm very excited about.
No, totally. I mean, I think it's incredible.
Hopefully that was a good explanation on how they
work. Incredible to the point where I'm not even sure where to start in response, to be honest.
And it's just like all this word non-fungible token and this and like that. But for people who don't know blockchain, like what the hell is that? So we just try to make it simple. It's a royalty ownership right, or it's an exclusive listening right. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, totally.
To make it simple.
No, absolutely, and I love where you're going with this, because like there's a lot of good stuff going off in the comments here about how this is a potential really great solution towards things like piracy as well, where
absolutely,
you're completely disincentivized in a lot of ways, and the fact that it is like such a scarce asset. And it's funny, you were talking about like these NFTs and stuff, and I still had that that image in my mind of that Wu-Tang album that no one's ever heard, that was in a glass box, and that shyster Martin Shkreli or whatever his name was ended up buying it.
God, I hate that guy.
Oh God, I hate that guy so much. But it's actually a really good example of that kind of scarcity in a way, right?
This could continue with ROCKI and music. I mean, you could essentially just put out a new track and just offer one NFT to one lucky fan, put it up as an auction, and maybe it'll sell for $1,000, $500, whatever. Or if you set a set price on all your work, you say, listen, my next 10 songs are only going to be one copy each, and it's going to be $100 each or $200 each, and I guarantee you, there's going to be fans supporting you, because we have seen traditionally fans love to have collectible items, whether it's collectible baseball card. I still have a lot of white label vinyl that was only pressed in so many copies, and it gives me great joy to play them, because I know there was only a couple of them made, and none of my friends has ever heard it. They will never hear it unless they come to my house, my basement, and I put it on. So bringing that type of nostalgia back, I think, is really cool. And of course, NFT is that technology that makes that possible by hiding the music. It's not available for everyone else. You need the NFT key to unlock it, and nobody else can have it. It can never be copied. It can never be downloaded.
I think it's amazing what you're talking about, because I think there's a deeper point to be made here, and we're forever like banging on about it here at NYT about make work that lasts. Try and make work that stands the test of time. The type of tracks that you're talking about, where you'll quite happily pull them out of a vinyl sleeve in 10 years and they'll sound just as good now as they did back then, you know. And I think with the sort of the complete sort of like commodification of music in a way, where it's just become completely interchangeable, completely functional, and you know, just the cycles have just gotten so quick now, and everything's ultimately so replaceable and throwaway, that I actually think the quality of music at the moment in a lot of ways is reflecting that kind of, you know, non-scarcity.
So.
You know, exactly. And,
I mean, sadly so. Because it's just kind of like a marketing thing. Like, you know, you're not going to make money on it. You're not going to spend that much time on it. It's just simply a matter of excess supply, putting into the Spotify pipeline, hoping that one out of your hundreds of tracks are going to be picked up by a playlist by Kramer, and that's going to make your career because you get a playlist feature and you know, whatever. But you know, that's not sustainable, and you know, sadly, that's kind of, you know, they have decided that music has no financial value. It only has this marketing value, which has kind of made, you know, it has caused the music to be less good, because people know that there's no really a big financial incentive to spend another 2-3 weeks or months to really get it to an amazing point. Because they know it's just going to go into this never-ending funnel and just kind of disappear. So I think by creating this system that can create that scarcity and make that whole, hey, I'm a collector now. I'm a collector of Paul. I already have 5 exclusive records of Paul that nobody else have. Or I have even 15 exclusive listening NFTs of Paul's tracks that only another 50 people have, or even another 500 fan have, still on a very, very small basis. And I think that will create some new fun fan interactions that weren't there before necessarily.
Yeah, and it's still possible to do that in a digital era, because I always like to tell the story about our label, Chapter 24, that we had for 5 years, and we've just sort of brought it to an end just before Christmas. And we set out to kind of do that a little bit and make like each record like a standalone piece of art in its own way, right? Like an artifact of itself. And I remember, because we didn't even have catalog numbers, like we were really pretentious. We had chapters rather than like catalog numbers and stuff. And it's amazing because like people get really culty about stuff like that, and they get really like into collecting stuff. So our first vinyl release was Chapter 12, as it was, and we had actually a little bit of a delay in trying to get it out. So our release schedule went Chapter 10, Chapter 11, Chapter 13, and we skipped a number. And dude, we had emails coming in from people going like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, where's Chapter 12? Like, you're fucking up my collection here. Like, I've got all 11, and now you're giving me 13 without 12. Like, what the fuck? And it's funny because people get really into that type of thing. So I think there's a combination of, like, as Marshall McLuhan said, the medium is the message, right? And if we figure out ways through NFTs and through these really exciting, digitally scarce products, I think we'll find that there'll be maybe a degree of art, like really come back into the art form, because the incentive is there all over again, rather than, well, nobody's valuing this because it's basically being used to sell adverts on a streaming service, and it's basically like a honeypot, essentially. And if I'm lucky, I'll be fed a breadcrumb by these platforms. It actually returns that sovereignty, as I mentioned at the beginning. It returns it back to the artist. And also, like you were saying, it rebuilds that more direct, more, I suppose, nurturing relationship between the artist and the fan. So it's super, super exciting. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. So yeah, I mean, I've got great stuff coming in the comments here. As I mentioned before, like Nicholas Pinto, who I'm sure you know, said maybe it's a good way of sharing exclusive tracks without the inherent risk of having them end up on pirate sites. Because the ironic thing, and a lot of people don't realize this, but the pirate sites are often making more off people's music than the artists are, because they're just putting like a QR code with a Bitcoin wallet attached to it and that kind of thing, and it's incredible. And I think there was the guys behind like Audio Lock and a few other companies all came together last year, and they were doing this audio mission thing, and they were like keeping a log, I think, of all of these pirate sites, and then actually finding people who were downloading from it, and a lot of people didn't even realize they were illegitimate. Like, because they're so well set up and they're so convincing. So, you know, ROCKI, I think, and I'm sure you've got some comments about this, is going to be, again, like an excellent solution to all of that, because effectively, you know, it's kind of removing that incentive.
Yeah, especially with NFT technology, I think that's a great solution for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we've got another couple of questions here from one of our members, Will. Number one, he wants to know how did the invite code work from ROCKI, both on the listener aspect and the artist standpoint, because he's looking at the site. He says for artists it may well be as easy as signing up and uploading your music. So how is it going to work in terms of taking on users as we kind of move more and more towards like being fully in the market?
Yeah, so great question. So first, to just start off, we've been working on a beta platform since October of last year, or actually September, and we built a version of the platform and the backend and server system, etc. And we did some testing, and it was pretty great. But we decided to rebuild everything from scratch in early December. Build a whole new backend, whole new server system, etc. And we were pushing a goal of having this public version out, I think last Monday. But we sadly, you know, we were maybe a couple of days too soon. It had a couple of bugs on the login system. So it should work for new artists signing up as a user. And when you go into your account page, you will see an affiliate tab. And basically, we have an affiliate referral program, which is essentially designed to help us grow and help artists who recommend ROCKI earning a token reward from the artists that they bring in. Right now, it's kind of specifically focused on artists. But even if you're just a listener, you can, of course, also now use it if you know an artist that you can recommend ROCKI to. So when you log in there, you'll see your own referral code. You can use that to recommend ROCKI for other artists. And if they sign up and they enter your code on that sign-up page, you basically get 5% of their streaming revenue from all of their streams for a period of 3 months. So for somebody that knows a lot of artists, it's a great way to invite them and earn a commission from their future streaming revenues on the platform. So it's kind of like an incentivized system that will help us grow. But also, if you're not an artist, you can still use that system. If, let's say, your neighbor is an artist and now you heard about ROCKI, you can basically give him your own referral code and you will still earn a 5% commission on their streaming revenue as well. There's going to be some sort of incentivized system for recommending listeners to sign up as well and get some sort of set bonus for signing up listener as well, because of course we need that as on platform as well. So that's in the work over this next few weeks. So when you're on your account page, you'll probably see next that there's a listener fan invite code, and that's probably just going to be tied into a specific ROCKS token amount. Let's just say one ROCKS token per new listener sign up that comes, just for now. I mean, it's probably going to be a little different number, but it's going to be some sort of set number. So an artist who puts it up on Twitter or Facebook or direct messages, that's a great way to also earn some token reward for helping to bring in some listeners.
No, it's great explanation. And
yeah,
you don't necessarily.
And what's cool about that? Sorry to cut you off. I'm just so excited about this. The really cool thing about this is, one might look at it as like, oh, you guys are going to make money and this and that, but this is really a win-win situation by scaling, right? So typically, there's a joint benefit for everyone on the platform by us scaling. So the more artists we can sign up, the more artists that upload music, the more payouts we do, both on the artist side and from the listener side, who are also earning the tokens, the better value everyone is going to get, because there is that correlation between the token value and how many people are holding your token. So there's a huge strength in numbers. So the quicker and bigger we can grow as a company, the more value everyone will earn. So you're actually essentially helping yourself by helping us to grow. Will create more utility of the token that typically always results in a higher token price. So let's say that you have $50 worth of token credits from your streams in this last few weeks, as an example. With us scaling the company and the community assisting in helping us to onboard new artists by using that affiliate referral program to earn a reward, you might wake up the following week and now that value is $70, or 3 months later it might be $150, etc. So huge strength in numbers, and that's also one of the reason why this referral mechanism was designed, that not only can it help us to onboard more artists that can also, of course, get benefit, but there is also that, commission reward to the person recommending us. They will have a great value doing so, and that's unlimited. You can sign up as many as you want, and you could have 50 artists that you are collecting essentially 5% from each, which could rack up to a lot of tokens.
Yeah, it's just an incredibly virtuous system, when you think about it. Like you're saying, it's everybody wins, and the more people use it, the more people win, which I think is just phenomenal. And such a refreshing change from how it's been up until now. And just to be clear, this is not just for artists who are signed to labels. This is actually for people who can literally directly self-release on there, right?
Yeah, so mainly ROCKI is for independent artists that own their own rights to their music, right? So, rather than us trying to call PRS and say, hey, we're going to pay you in tokens for all the streams that Paul has, they're not going to have a conversation. So we simply kind of don't work with them for the time being. So at this first iteration, it's basically just music that you fully own the rights to. We are also working with ways of incorporating labels where the labels can have their own profile, but those songs will also have to include the original artist. So Paul, your label, let's say, I have a release on your label, and the deal split that we have is, let's just say it's 60-40, 60% to Paul's label, 40% to me as an artist. So when the label uploads that music, the label gets their 60, and me as the artist, I get my 40. So that way, there is no mystery if the record label is holding my money or they're going to pay out. Everyone gets paid accordingly to the deal split. It's fully transparent. There's no mystery on what's going on. But that's kind of more of a second focus that we're going to go into. So for the time being, it's simply music that artists own the full rights to, and a lot of this, if you're signed to a publisher or PRS or ASCAP or BMI, sometimes you can just simply request ROCKI to be excluded from collecting. We've seen both ASCAP and BMI, they have forms you can fill out on their website, on your member page, where you can exclude a particular service from collecting. And I'm fairly certain PRS has something similar. If it's just the platform in general, or just say, hey, my new song Heaven, I want that excluded from collecting on ROCKI. So that's something we're going to look into in this near future as well.
Yeah, because obviously we could do a whole other podcast on just blockchain technologies, possibilities for completely disrupting the publishing industry and helping it be a hugely more efficient and fair and transparent, whole industry where that's
absolutely
concerned.
but to my point there, as I said before, blockchain has been around now for quite some time, and even Spotify bought a blockchain company, I think like 4 years ago or something. But I'm not really sure that those companies really want to have more accurate and transparent accounting. That's where they make a lot of the profits, on that in a big black box. That mystery. There's mystery. There's profit. People don't really know how it's collected and that. Imagine the biggest publishers in the world, fully transparent, fully on the blockchain. Everyone has access to it. I don't see that happening anytime soon. I do agree with you.
Not a good look for them.
There's a need, and well, probably not. There's for sure a need. I just think that some of those powers that be, they don't want to be fixed. That system generates them tens of billions of dollars already. I mean, they're all in bed with each other, moving money around. So I do agree with you. It would be great, publishing blockchain technology to improve, collecting through all the different mediums around the world. But even still today, some people are still measuring radio plays by having some people out on the street just counting by hearing the song how many times it's being played, to go and put that into a report manually, to go report it to some collecting society.
So crazy, right?
Yeah,
it's just so crazy. It's batshit mental as far as I'm concerned. So like,
it really is.
But it also, like, it begs the question now, like, what do you think it's going to look like in 5 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, obviously, if we just look at ROCKI, we're just going to work on developing our roadmap, building our freestanding music platform, using the blockchain how we see it fit, the NFT offerings, etc. But I think what we have seen now, and I always bring this up, it's clear to me that most artists are really fed up with the current system. There's even governments that are reviewing Spotify. I think there's a big one in the UK. Correct, where they are really dissecting Spotify of unfair streaming practices that they employ. Perhaps there will be more government insight and direction to try to create more of a fair system. But typically, I'm not too convinced that they will succeed, because these people have so much money and so much power. But as we've seen, I'm sure you saw Kanye West big meltdown on Twitter, trying to get out of his major. Yeah, which one? Well, But he basically, I think it was late last year, he basically, tweeted out every single page of his 10 or 11 different major label contracts with Universal, essentially begging lawyers to help him get out of his record contract, because he wants to be independent. He wants to own his own rights. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where the industry is heading. More and more people are realizing that you don't need to sell your rights to anyone else for collecting or distributing. There are so many great options today. If you are looking to get your music into TV and film, there are great options where you can pitch your music to self-releasing and using DistroKid and CD Baby and all the other ones. You can distribute there. You can build up your social media following. You can, pay influencer to shill your music. Like, there's a lot of tools available for an artist today where they can actually have a fairly successful career with still retaining the rights. And I always bring up Chance the Rapper, who's one of the biggest independent artists in the world, completely independent, owns all of his masters. He can do whatever he wants with whoever he wants, when he wants, and it's only him collecting, nobody else. And I think that's kind of where we see a lot of things are happening in that sense. People are, preferring to go that independent route. And in fact, the whole independent category of the music industry is by far the fastest growing at the moment, which is great. So yeah, I think we will see probably, those big mega artists are still going to be there. Those big mega labels are going to be there, and some are going to be, enticed to sign those deals, to sign away their rights with those type of companies for a big. I mean, make no mistake. I'm sure Kanye was very happy when he got millions of dollars up front when he signed the contract in the first place. Right? Mm-hmm. So, that model probably will always still continue. But I think, I think having new technologies like us and there's a bunch of other really cool companies that can provide additional value for independent artists. It's just gonna explode. It's just gonna be more and more. So as an independent artist, you're just gonna have more great options for you to advance your career. Whether you are looking to get your music into TV, film, and commercials, there are great options there. If for us, if you're looking to dabble into crypto and blockchain and earn crypto on your streams and issuing NFTs to sell pieces of your royalties, that's one great option. I'm a big fan of Bandcamp. I think they've done a great job there, selling direct to fans with probably merchandising and this and that. So I think we're just going to see more and more option there. So I think it's a great time to launch something like ROCKI now because the need is there. That's where the market is heading.
Yeah, totally. It's wild times, isn't it? And it's so
I guess it's just also hard to keep up. Like there's so many services, and I think that's why, a service like you guys who work closely with your community of artists, you're analyzing, you're actively looking out there, what are people doing, what services are popping up, and that's how we got started because of that interest that you guys have on alternative services, right? And that obviously come because there's a need. Had Spotify be paying you out 50 times more than they are right now, we might not have this conversation today.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, it's true because, our mission's very similar to you guys in terms of, it's democratization at the end of the day. That's what it's about. It's about being able to provide people with the tools to be able to independently go about their business, and in our case it's the business of them fulfilling their potential personally and artistically, and bound up in that is financially as well, because you've got to be able to put the food on the table. And we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago when we first spoke about a lot of people who are making music they don't want to be forced out on tour. They don't want to go and live that life because it's a very particular kind of life. I've lived that.
I can attest to that myself. Well, I used to have hair before I went on the road.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you said on Skype before the call, you were like, "I'm going to do my hair." I was like, "I'm not even going there." But that's the thing. It's like it's as it's a rough life and it's not for everyone. But that doesn't mean that an artist should have to be almost forced to go out and perform if he wants to earn a living from his art. It's like it shouldn't. It doesn't need to be that way. And what really excites me about these platforms now, and ROCKI's included, is the fact that people can legitimately look at that and go, "Oh, I could literally earn a living from being on ROCKI, doing the NFTs, or building my audience up in whatever way I want, and basically earning a living from that, and a mix of platforms that works for the genre that I'm in." That's what really excites me about it.
Yeah, and if we can, obviously now with the pandemic, a lot of people are unemployed, etc. But even before then, a lot of musicians, they have to have a second job to be able to sustain their musical career. So if we can just, have a platform that will help artists not having to be forced to take a second job to pay the bills, and they can actually get some real income from music. And our token ROCKS. It's already listed at some cryptocurrency exchanges. It's being, I think today it was traded at around 13 cents for one ROCKS. It went up to 20 cents the other day. And we haven't even gotten started yet. We haven't really done any marketing. We haven't really launched.
You're worth more than Dogecoin already. You haven't even started yet.
Well, we have, what's cool about that, we have a lot less users, right? So Dogecoin have a ton of users who are hyping it up.
Don't start me.
There's no product or service behind it. It's just fluff. It's just word of mouth hype. If Elon is going to put it on his Twitter handle, it's going to go up. But having a platform that actually solves a real world problem and provides those tools that may have been missing in the past, coupled with new tools that we never knew about. I mean, I never knew we could have a music NFT selling royalties if you would have asked me a year and a half ago. It's new, it's future. But I tell you one thing, it works perfectly for music and for artists. And to be said, I think this next few months, we're going to roll out the features. We're going to list the tokens at other exchanges, and one big part of ROCKI is also making that, okay, how do I withdraw some of these tokens that I've earned on the platform later on when there's value created? And there's a big focus on making that particular withdrawal function as simple as possible. So you don't need to be that crypto expert in order to do so. We're talking to a couple of debit card providers that can basically connect your crypto balance on ROCKI to a Visa debit card, so you can go out and buy a new synthesizer using your ROCKI Visa crypto card that's tied into your wallet there. And that might be one of the first ones. But then, the long-term goal is that the entire on and off ramp happens on ROCKI. So if you want to buy some more tokens in order to buy more marketing on the platform to reach more people, you can buy some additional tokens on the platform. And the same thing as well as when you have used the platform for X amount of time and you have X amount of value created, now you want to withdraw because you have been eyeing this new microphone for your studio. You can do that in a very simple way that's not very different than using PayPal, for example. So,
wow.
Blockchain can sound scary. Maybe for some of you guys out there that are new to blockchain and crypto, not to worry too much. The goal and focus of us is making it, as user-friendly as possible, especially for non-blockchain users out there. I mean, that to me is my biggest goal.
Yeah, totally. And as I mentioned before, our goal is to just try and take all the heat and all the kind of the fear out of it as well. So, thank you for doing that, and thank you for providing us with just an incredible potential opportunity in the next few years. And I think we're going to look back at this conversation in a few years and think, wow, look, we were there back then, and look at us now, like 5-10 years into the future.
Yeah, and hopefully, we can provide the best value, and I hope you guys can check it out. Paul, you can provide an invite link for that, and of course, you can start uploading music. That payment system is about to go live soon. It'll be very easy to follow, and then the NFTs are coming after that. Yeah, but the platform is ready for onboarding, for uploading music for new artists, and you will get your, once you sign up, you always will get our news email with updates, etc. And we have a pretty big following on Telegram, on socials, on Instagram,
nice.
etc. So we're going to work with featuring new artists on the platform in various top charts and exclusive charts, etc. We're going to try to give as much support as possible. One thing that I want to tell you, Paul, before we end this call is, I was sending you 20 Bitcoins, but because this is not distributed ledger,
come on.
This transaction it just disappeared.
Come on.
It's like it never happened.
And that's why you need a blockchain.
That's why you need a blockchain, because you would have had a million people say, no, you did send it, he's going to get it.
God damn. And it doesn't even matter because I've got you on camera saying it as well. Doesn't matter.
That's true. But yeah, that's blockchain in a nutshell. That everyone has a transaction record of that happening, and there's no way to cheat it.
Yeah, exactly. So one final thing I wanted to ask you: what was the inspiration for the name ROCKI? Because Don, one of our members, is asking what the inspiration was.
Well, that's a really good one, and I'm one of those that have hundreds of domains from many years of being crazy to the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. But going through them and looking at them, I like that. If you remember the Rocky Balboa movies, how he was the underdog and he is defeating the great mighty Russian Ivan, the Swedish guy. I forgot his name.
Ivan Drago.
Yeah, Ivan Drago there. I even made like a meme with a ROCKI logo on the glove, taking him out. But ROCKI is the underdog, and we are going up against a very evil industry that doesn't want to be disrupted. So, can we be this Robin Hood that try to change the method? And obviously, we're not stealing from the rich because we're not even integrated, but we are trying to just provide more value to our users. And as a community effort, as we grow, everyone benefits from the growth of the platform, from the growth in the user. The token economy goes up, the value goes up. So it's kind of like a Robin Hood mission, but the ROCKI was kind of like sticking it in the face to those evil corporations.
I love it. I was in already, and now you've explained that to me. I'm all the way in. Like I've got Braveheart speeches going on in my head and everything.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it's totally in line, and we're going to be doing a lot more. This is the beginning of something between ROCKI and NYT. Yeah. This is the great thing about it. We were
talking about making like a full-on tutorial course on video, using the systems, filling out smart record contract, using the promotional tools, etc. And some strategies around marketing as well. So
absolutely.
I think your members will look forward to that.
Yeah, totally. And likewise, we're looking forward to getting our music on there as well. So, as Bjorn mentioned, there's going to be a referral code coming soon for NYT members, which we'll be getting onto in the next few weeks. And yeah, we're looking forward to getting the music on the platform and start setting ourselves up for success in the future. Because I think, one thing I've learned from being involved in the crypto markets over the last few years is that you do have to kind of think, a few years into the future, and your time horizons have to be much wider and much longer term. So again, we might start from a very particular place, but the most important thing is that we're going on a journey, and in the next sort of 3 to 5 years, we're definitely not going to be in Kansas anymore. We're definitely going to be somewhere else and somewhere far better, and in a situation where we're going to still have control over it all and be able to, earn a very, very decent living from what we love to do.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah. Simple as that. I want to thank you, Bjorn, mate. This has been a great time. It's always good when we get together, even though we've only spoken a few times. It's always been fun when we talk.
Yeah, listen, absolutely my pleasure, my privilege. We are building ROCKI for guys like yourself, for every single member that you have. It's it's a big passion project of mine. I've always tried to come up with ideas and technologies or apps and features that help provide value for artists, whether that was at VDM or the Groovio, Tune did and Sally Make It, and now with ROCKI. But it's a big passion project of mine, and nothing gives me more joy than seeing people commenting, seeing the token value, reaching more fans, and especially we get a lot of attention of the NFT system, because who wouldn't want to try to get some new upfront revenue in today's harsh pandemic world that we live in.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're super excited.
Dude, yes. And if it's good enough for the likes of Guy J, it's good enough for us, right?
Yeah, he was very happy, and he's a big supporter of the platform. And he has his own label, Lost and Found. It's a great label. So it's just really great. He's got a great fan base, very supportive of his music, and I think there's many guys like him, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of artists that have that great relationship with their fans that will go on above and beyond and to support the artist.
No, amazing. Well, look, you're welcome back anytime, dude, and looking forward to working with you more on ROCKI and seeing how it develops. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Thank you, MIT. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Catch new episodes of Beyond the Studio every single week on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy your podcasts.